Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. This is PJK MMA. If you enjoy this video today, make sure you like and subscribe. I'm going to be making content like this, hopefully on a weekly basis. There's some fun fights on this card, so let's get right into it with the main card opener of Keelan Salkild versus Jamie Mullarkey. Salkild's opening is a -1,000 favorite, I think, in this fight, which is massive and maybe a little bit inflated, but it is with good reason. He's got super tight and powerful striking, and he's coming off of some crazy highlight reel knockouts, and he's showcased some solid grappling, both offensively and defensively. He just seems to be a very overall well-rounded young prospect. Jamie Mullarkey is primarily a striker, although it just doesn't seem as fluid as the striking of Keelan Salkild's. And just watching his fights, there do seem to be a lot of moments where when he engages, he leaves big openings for counter shots. Due to that, I think that my final prediction in this fight is going to be Keelan finding a counter right hand as Jamie Mullarkey comes in and putting him out in round 1. The next fight up is Tai Tuivasa versus Talison Teixeira. This is a pretty big fight for Tai Tuivasa right now. He hasn't won a fight in 4 years. He's on a 5-fight losing streak, and he's been out for about a year and a half now. Tai isn't the most technical striker. He's a big power puncher, and he's shown to mostly just be a slugger. He has some good outside leg kicks, but his game isn't super diverse and technical. Talison Teixeira is ginormous, standing at 6'7", I think, and he's shown to be fast and powerful in the cage. So with that being said, I think that Tai Tuivasa is going to knock Talison Teixeira out. Just looking at the tape, Talison Teixeira has some really poor defense, and he gets caught a lot. So even though on paper it seems like a really clear choice taking Talison Teixeira, and even though the odds have him at, I think, a -300 or so favorite, I feel fairly confident that Tai Tuivasa is going to get it done. I think that he's going to be refreshed and in a new mind state after this layoff. Maybe he won't be back to his prime form, but I think he will show up better than he has been. And I think that he's going to chop Talison Teixeira down with some leg kicks and time a big overhand that's going to put Talison Teixeira out in the first round. Next one up, Rafael Fiziev versus Mauricio Hufi. This is a super close and exciting matchup on paper, and it's a fight that I've honestly had a really hard time picking. I think that early on, when they're in that poking and prodding stage of the fight, and they're fighting at a slower pace, Hufi's going to do some good work. He does a good job feinting, creating openings, and setting traps for his opponents, and getting in super explosively. However, I think that as the fight picks up and both guys start to open up more, Fiziev is going to pull away. I think Fiziev's going to make the pace more chaotic and put pressure on Hufi, which seems to have made him uncomfortable in the past. I think he's going to find great success to the body with kicks and punches, as well as finding success with leg kicks. And I think that despite being close, Fiziev is going to pull away with a clear, unanimous decision, maybe 29-28 after dropping a close first round. Next up is Dan Hooker versus Benoit Saint-Denis. This is another matchup that just seems like it's going to be fireworks on paper. Both of these guys just want to stand their ground and fight, always. I think the game plans of each guy is going to be pretty clear. Hooker's going to want to keep the fight standing, use his movement, and use his kickboxing to outstrike Benoit Saint-Denis. And I think that Benoit is going to want to apply a ton of pressure to Dan Hooker, march him down, get him to the cage, shoot on him, and drag him to the canvas. Benoit's just an imposing figure in the octagon. He's ginormous at lightweight. He's strong. He's powerful. And when he gets to the clinch on people, when he shoots in on his takedowns and he gets a hold of people, it just seems like he's so strong in those positions. One thing in BSD's game that is concerning is how hittable he seems sometimes, especially when he is just deciding to come into the pocket, get to the clinch, and he's just walking in. It seems like his head is just right there for the taking whenever he's doing that. I think that in this fight, especially against someone that does have some power, he needs to be mindful when he's entering into the pocket and putting that pressure on Dan Hooker. I'm sure that both guys are going to find their moments in this fight, and it's going to be close at times, and it's going to get scrappy. But I think that Benoit is going to just push the pace and just make the fight into a grind. After a grueling fight early, I think that Benoit is going to find a submission in round 2 or 3 and finish the fight. Moving on to the main event with Alexander Volkanovski versus Diego Lopes too. I'm curious to see how this fight's going to differ from the first fight and what kinds of adjustments both guys have made. I think Volk is going to be looking to do something similar to what he did in the first fight. He's going to want to use his movement, pick his spots, and just tear Diego down methodically, mixing in his striking and his grappling. One thing that Volk really needs to be mindful of is his defense in this fight. It's something that does concern me with him, especially with a big power puncher. He has this bad habit that has gotten him in trouble, and it got him knocked down in the last fight with Diego Lopes, where he'll throw his jab at his opponent, throws that jab out, and then as he pulls it back, if his opponent's throwing as well, he just drops that lead hand, pulls straight back, and will kind of like use this hand to try to catch. But a lot of the times, those shots will sneak right over the shoulder, hit him atop the head, and that is exactly how Diego Lopes put him down in their last fight. And that reaction is what led to the sequence that Ilia Topuria knocked Volk out in. Something that's a bit concerning for Diego Lopes in this fight is the fact that in his last fight against Jean Silva, despite looking good early in the grappling and getting the win by knockout in the second round, his striking didn't really seem all that improved, especially his striking defense. It still seems like he's just there to get hit, and like his chin is served up on a platter at times. Just going off of that and going off of the fact that their fight, in which Volk dominated, took place less than a year ago, I'm going to have to say that my final prediction for this fight is another Volkanovski masterclass in which he beats Diego across 5 rounds. That's it for my picks for this video. This was a bit of a shorter one than my last one. I tried to get through the recording process a little bit quicker this time. I'm also a little bit sick right now, so my energy's kind of low. Not feeling great, but still super excited for these fights and super excited to talk about them. One thing that I'm really scared of is Volkanovski getting knocked out in this fight. In their first fight, I was completely convinced that Diego was going to win and win by brutal knockout, and it didn't happen. Volk proved me wrong. So I'm going to put my faith in him again, but it's something that still really scares me, especially with some of the defensive holes that he has and just with the power that Diego Lopes possesses. Still going with Volk, but it's just something that I'm really nervous about. And the matchmaking in this fight's just silly, just because of the fact that Volk dominated him, again, less than a year ago. It really should have been someone like Movsar Evloev or Lerone Murphy in there with Volk instead of Diego Lopes. It's just a case of the UFC picking who's the bigger name instead of who's gonna give the best fight. So that's all for today's video. If you made it this far, thank you for watching, and I'd really appreciate it if you liked and subscribed. Thank you.